Welcome back, party people, episode 71 of Where My Killer Tape At. This is an episode that I've been trying to do for a while. I'm going to talk about Hoteps. I call them the conscious community. I've been on the fence about it, and you're going to see why. I'm still a part of that community, even though I'm not as active as I used to be. So, I use Hoteps in a disparaging manner as well, but I want to kind of talk about where it comes from, my history in it. So this is part one of that. And of course, we have the other segments that you all know and love. So check it out. Yo, where my killer tape at, B? For episode 71 of Where My Killer Tape At, I am sipping on Dayton Vodka by Bell of Dayton Distillery. I'm not a vodka person, but if I was to drink vodka, it would be Dayton Vodka. Shout out to y'all, to Bell of Dayton Distillery. It goes down smooth, and I try not to trip on it, but what makes my city dope is that we have an aquifer, so the water is distilled from there to make this vodka. It's probably why it tastes so fresh and so clean. But I'm not a vodka person. Somebody gave me a bottle a while ago, and then my old boss just gave me a bottle recently, so that's what I'm sipping on right now. And no one is paying me. So before we get into it, I want to talk about what Hotep means. And Hotep is spelled H-O-T-E-P, and it just means peace. It's a Kemetic word for peace. And Kemet, because I'm going to be using Kemetic a lot, Kemet is the actual original term from what we know as Egypt, right? And Egypt was two kingdoms actually located from the Nile that leads out going into the Mediterranean. And, it goes south, but actually it flows north. But that's neither here nor there. To right above what is now Ethiopia. Some say Ethiopia at one time was part of Egypt. And there's a lot of discussion about that. But anyway, I'm getting too deep. But it means peace. In the Kemetic language, in the written language of Kemet, they didn't use vowels, so it was actually spelled HTP, just like Kemet was spelled KMT. But since it's been anglicized, that's what it means, Hotep. Now, it means peace. Now people use it as like a derogatory terms towards people who adhere to that concept of Afrocentricity. And we're going to get into that in a second. But I just wanted to define that at first. Personally, I don't like the way the term is used now, because I still say Hotep to my peoples every now and then that are in the conscious community. And we're going to talk about that real quick. So I just wanted to give you that definition. Now people like to use, again, they say Hoteps to talk about people who adhere to that form of Afrocentricity. Where I'm from, we call it the conscious community, and that consists of people who are Kemetic, Afrocentric, people in the nation of God's earth, people in the Hebrew Israelites, even though I don't like the motherfuckers, I don't like the Hebrew Israelites, people that are in just different organizations that are about black nationalism. So that also includes members of the Nation of Islam, etc., etc. Depending on what city you live in, all those groups work together, and we call it the conscious community. But everyone berates them as Hoteps. I'm real careful about it, because while I still engage with those people, I am on the elders council. I'm not with them all the time entirely, and I don't participate in all the activities. I just do the Kwanzaa celebrations and all the rites of passage stuff. All the other things I kind of try to stay away from, the lectures and everything. So, but when they ask me to do something, I come through, because that community has been an integral part of my life and my family's life. So I just wanted to just really let y'all know that the term that I use is conscious community. Are there bad members of that community? Yes, it's like any other community that you have all over the world. You have members who are sexist and racist and misogynistic and homophobic as other people of other organizations. So I just wanted to point that out. Not making an excuse for that, just saying.
It's all a game. It's all a game. It's all a game.
Um, I became a member, like I'm gonna say 1992. I was in the Navy, and on my ship there was a black study group, and we used to get together and we used to pick out certain books to read. And I know the first one we read was Destruction of Civilization by Chancellor Williams, and I'm gonna get into that in a second. But I got involved in that community that way. When we touched down in Philadelphia, there were people there that came on our ship, and they were like involved with the conscious community in Philadelphia. So that's how I got down way back in '92. Man, I know I'm old. I'm old, and I've been involved pretty much. I'm gonna say really up to about 2010, and that's when I kind of like pulled away. When I started really, messing with black male feminism and all that stuff. And when I finally was like, yo, I'm an atheist, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of like fell away. I didn't have beef with nobody or nothing like that. They still show me mad love. I still mess with my elders, but that's how I got down. So I read all the books. I've been around all the lecturers. I met Khalid Muhammad. I did security for Dr. Ben. I met and seen the greats, man. So, you know what I'm saying? So we could go ahead and discuss that, who was saying what. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew people who was in Dr. Malachi, quote unquote, Dr. Malachi York's camp, who we had beef with. I mean, I could go on and on with all that stuff, but I've been in it for a while. I want to talk about Afrocentricity, and I want to talk about how, like, when we talk about Africa, a lot of times the focus is on Egypt when it comes to people that are quote unquote Hoteps. All right. A book that you have to read is Afrocentricity by Dr. Molofi Asante, and I think I believe he still teaches at Temple University. He got a PhD in that, in Black History, I believe. I want to say that's what it was. I could be wrong. Oh, Africana Studies. My bad, Africana Studies. But he teaches there. He wrote a couple of books on that dealt with Afrocentricity, and that's the focus that is the idea that we should put our economic, our spiritual, our social, our cultural, our spiritual focus on Africa, like it should be centered, juxtaposed or in opposition to Eurocentricity, which is how white people center everything around them, right? Religion, politics, culture, everything. You know what I'm saying? And all is focused on Europeans. Even our standards of beauty are European, Eurocentric. So that's where that came from. I recommend it. It's a good book to read. And Dr. Molofi Asante, there's a lot of controversy behind him. Some of it is made up. Some of it is just academia. But some of it is he had beef with a lot of people. He's like a lot of older heads. They don't like when young heads come through. So there's always been beef. Some of it is true and some of it isn't. But anyway, how did it focus from? Because at one time scholars, particularly black scholars, were focusing on West Africa, and then they were saying that you should focus on Egypt. What a lot of them told me, this is what they told me. They told me that, I'm talking about these scholars, they told me that there was a person by the name of Cheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. Look him up. He wrote Civilization of Barbarism, really good dope book. And what he did was he went to a symposium. UNESCO's like the United Nations, like they deal with anthropology, and their job is to save like old sites, ancient cities, and artifacts and temples that are old, and people try to destroy them. That's their job, right? He went to a UNESCO symposium. He showed and proved how the original Egyptians or the Kemites are actually black people. He was multidisciplined. I don't want to say he was a doctor. I think he wasn't, but he had like several degrees in several different disciplines, such as anthropology, history, he was a linguist, etc., etc. So he was the one that was saying that we should focus all of our stuff on Egypt. So a lot of scholars took that cue and they ran with it. So that's why a lot of it deals when they say like Kemet. They you know, there are people that say, oh, Kemet is all of Africa, and I'm like, no, it's actually that part of that eastern part of Africa that connects, you know, that's connected to Asia Minor. So yeah, so to the Saudi Arabian, excuse me, the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, my bad. That part of Africa that connects to the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, my bad. So that's why the focus is on Egypt instead of other parts of Africa, like, you know, west or the Kikongo or the middle part of Africa, and that's where that comes from. So I want to really talk about that.
Yo, I think Prince should first listen. I think so too. I think so. Yo, I think Prince should first listen. I think so too. I think so.
So here is the literature that I know I can't speak for everybody, but I know that everybody I messed with when I was in the conscious community, this is the books that we have. Some of these I still have in my library, some of them were stolen, but these are the ones you have to read. The ISIS Papers by the late great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Actually, not a bad book. I mean, I know that a lot of times people found her to be, you know, to be problematic. But her book wasn't that bad. The parts that I had issue with, where she was so obsessed with the penis and the phallic symbol, I was like, bruh. But other than that, you know, she dealt with a lot of stuff that I thought was crucial to our growth and development. A book that a lot of us read, and I had 2 copies, and both of them were stolen, ironically. The Stolen Legacy by G.M. James, which is like, he wrote this, I want to say in the 40s, and it's still a classic book. It's a short read. And he demonstrates how the Greeks stole a lot of information from the Kemites or the Egyptians. Highly recommended. You should have it in your library. I'm going to have to go back and get another one. I mentioned this earlier, Afrocentricity by Dr. Malachi Asante. And again, it gives you pretty much what the theory of Afrocentricity is. Then another one that's my favorite that I still have. I don't loan this one out to nobody. And the reason why is because my study group that I had when I was in the Navy was filled with many dope brothers. This is before there was women on combat ships, so we didn't have any women in our group until right before I left. So I didn't get a chance to like really bond with them. But the gentlemen that were in that group, I really did. And that was like our first book, Our Valley Contributions to Civilization by Tony Browder. And he still lectures. He's in DC. Tony Browder does a tour of DC and the Egyptian influence on it, the Kemetic influence on it. So I recommend going on that. It's really dope. He doesn't charge too much on that, but definitely do that. And then, of course, the classic one, which is very hard to get. Someone stole my copy, and I regret it because now, you know, Dr. Ben or Yosef Ben Yochanan, who we call Dr. Ben affectionately, he passed away a couple years ago. So his books are out of print, and so when you find them online, you're looking at maybe $400 to $500 for this book. And it's The Black Men of the Nile. Actually, Dr. Ben is the one who called Africa Akibulan. He's the one that coined that term, and I actually had a chance to talk to him about that. So yeah, so those are the 5 books that we all read, that we kind of like had, and that you all, like, for you to be official, you had to have read it. And I remember going to an event where all those books are being sold. There's some other joints that stand out, but I think those are the ones that everybody had and we talked about. So I hope that helps out with that. Here we go. We're going to review, spoiler-free review of Netflix original Beats. B-E-A-T-S. Not Beats by Dre, but Netflix Beats. And it is directed by Chris Robinson, who, you know what? This dude has done some dope stuff. He did ATL, which I love. I could watch that any day of the week. And the new edition story for BET. Like, those are, I fucks with that dude. Like, for real. But anyway, it stars Anthony Anderson, who I'm actually not a fan of. It stars Uzo Aduba from, Orange is the New Black. You got Dave East in there, you know what I mean? And they got, and I always say her name wrong, Imayatsi Koreanaldi, she was in mad stuff. She was in mad stuff. And I think, first of all, I think she's freaking gorgeous, but she's a dope actress. And I think seeing her in this was pretty good. Let's go ahead and talk about it. The premise, it takes place in Chicago, and it's about this kid who sees his sister get murdered, and then she used to use SP 1200. She used to make beats and stuff like that. She used to sing, and he sees her get murdered, and then he becomes a recluse. And then and his sister was played by Dreezy, by the way. My daughter pointed that out. She was like, "Oh, that's Dreezy." And the brother's played by Khalil Everidge. And anyway, in the movie, he suffers from PTSD because he watched his sister get murdered. He blames himself for it. And he becomes a recluse. He doesn't go to school. He stays in there. And his mother works and pretty much takes care of everything. And then Anthony Anderson plays a character who is a school security guard. He's currently married to the principal, played by I always say her name wrong. Played by Imiati, who plays the principal. Let me just say this: I'm not a fan of Anthony Anderson. I think he's he's alright, but this is his best performance. And let me say about this movie that, trigger warning, there are scenes of gun violence in here. And I know it really got me in the heart because I'm really trying to avoid that stuff. And definitely, I just want to let you know that's triggering. So that's where his PTSD comes from. But Anthony Anderson does a good job. He plays a washed up manager in A&R who signed other artists to major labels. And most of them, a couple of them were murdered. Some of them have gone on to bigger things. Some of his proteges became, A&Rs and label people that have influence. So anyway, he's working as a security guard only because his estranged wife is the principal there. And she's battling, high absentee rates, high school dropout rates, school violence, etc., etc. So what I think about the movie is okay. I see that in most places they gave it a 6 out of 10. I would give it a 6 out of 10. And I'm going to say why. Here's why. I think the performances by Uso Aduba, she always kills it. She always kills it. Anything that she's in, she always kills. And even Anthony Anderson gave a stellar performance, right? The average kid, he did a good job. I think everybody did their thing, but I just felt like here's one thing that it did. It really painted people of Chicago as what's the word I want to use? Not callous, but they just didn't give a fuck. Like they just didn't care. Like when there's a scene where he's looking for he's tasked to finding certain students that are not coming to class, and he's going to these neighborhoods, and every time he goes to a neighborhood, he's being threatened with gun violence. He's arguing with people. Parents are getting snotty with him, and it seems like the people of Chicago don't give a fuck. And I know that not to be true, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that. Number two, his love interest or his estranged wife, I don't like the way she was written. She's written as bitter, as someone who doesn't give a fuck, who doesn't believe in his dream, but they never really got into why his character fell from grace. Now they hint at the fact that he jerked some of his artists, he played some people out, he stole money from people and he didn't pay them back, and he burned a lot of bridges, so he actually did her dirty. But they never really explain what actually happened. Usually in these movies, they kind of tell you why this character fell from grace, and that didn't happen. So you're kind of left in the dust as to why nobody would trust him. And he almost does the little homie dirty, but I just really that's another issue that I had with it. And then I kind of felt like it was long. Like it could have been, I think it could have taken off 20 minutes of it. I'm learning that a lot of movies are doing that, where they're just a little bit longer. And I think that if you cut off about 15 to 20 minutes, it makes it more digestible. Especially if you're not telling the full story. If you're not telling the full story, why make the movie any longer than it is? But other than that, it's a good watch. I just tell people there's a trigger warning in that, and I think you should be careful of that and mindful of that. But actually, the movie's at 109 minutes. It's almost 2 hours, so I just wanted to point that out. But check it out on Netflix. I want to get back to water for this health segment, episode 71, where my killer tape at. And this is some of the tricks that I use because I drink a lot of water, and it's a habit for me. I'm always drinking water, so I really drink juices. I think I do drink coffee. I know I drink a lot of alcohol, but that's usually during certain days and times of the week, so it's not like it's consistent. But even then, I stay hydrated. I always tell people that don't use those gallon containers. And here's why. 2 reasons. Number one is because it's like when you get like a quarter of the way, you're like, man, I gotta drink this whole thing. So I always tell people use smaller containers because it's just easier to consume. You just keep filling them up, keep filling them up. People are like, oh, I don't feel like going back and forth to the water fountain. Well, let me just say this, man. Do it, man. It's good exercise, all right? It's good. Trust me, it's good exercise, all right? Walking is good for you. So use smaller containers. Number two, the backwash. So like when you drink that gallon, if you notice it when you get towards the bottom, it doesn't taste as good as when you first started. It's because of that backwash from the saliva in your mouth. It actually, I'm not saying that it's bad. It actually kind of gets stale. You know what I mean? And it starts to taste that way. So you get to keep it small and simple, and you just drink it, and that'll be good for you. And that's all you need. You don't need to walk around with a big gallon. Plus, it just looks. You gotta always carry it with you. It's ridiculous. Whereas I leave a container at my office, so that way, and it's a small one. It's a small container. It's about 12 ounces, and then I just fill it up, boom, drink it, fill it up, boom. It's just easy. When I'm at home, I know this y'all gonna trip on this. It was one of my New Year's resolutions. I drink everything out of a glass, out of a wine glass. So yes, I drink my water out of a wine glass. If you follow me on IG, you'll see that when I'm talking on my IG stories, I use a wine glass to drink water out of. And I just, it feels like I'm drinking. I just knock them back, bow, bow, bow. I hope this helps out. Remember, stay hydrated, folks, and mind your business. Word.
This is a man's world, but it would be nothing without. This is a man's world.
Part 3, UBC, sip lime McCarthy. Heavy on the list, you blink my ice ring. John Lee Green, yeah, that's small. COD, Part 3, UBC, sip lime McCarthy.
I got an add-on question for how to approach women. I got a story that I might tell y'all later, some other time. Anyway, and that's somebody asked, when I meet someone, is it okay if I text them late? And I think I covered this before. There was like, and when I asked this person, how late is like, after 10 o'clock. And I'm just, I'm from a different era, not trying to be funny. Like, I just feel like, and back then, like, when I meet a young woman, I would actually ask her what time would be good for me to call her. Like, I would say, can I call you tomorrow? What time would be good for me to call you? Should I call you at 7? I would get a time. My point is, get consent. You know what I mean? Like, so if you want to text her in the middle of the night, because, you work, you got stuff you got to take care of, etc., ask them, say, hey, can I text you at this time? And then text them at that time. I think it'll go a long way. And really, in any situation, ask for consent. Before you send a picture, can I send you a picture of me in my suit, out for church? And they say, yeah, then send it to them. Don't just assume that how y'all talking and what y'all doing, that you can just do whatever. If you just ask for consent in any situation, trust me, man, it'll go a long way. So that's what I would do. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm not dating. It's been a long time since I dated. I'm not single, which is what I'm trying to say, because I still go on dates, just not single. Then I don't know what y'all do nowadays, but I'm assuming if you get consent, shit'll be good. Work. Definitely got to give a shout out to the homie DJ Skano. Just had his reception about a week ago. It was really dope. Really dope to just, I love seeing people in love, man. I really do, man. I love seeing people of all ages in love. And I just want people to be happy, you know what I mean? Also, give a shout out to the homie Misty Creates, who's in JA right now, enjoying herself. We see you. Word is born. Dope pictures, by the way, of the land that she's showing us down in JA. Shout out to all our peoples down there. Definitely. Shout out to my book club, Dayton Noir book club, and we're reading right now Damon Young's if it doesn't kill you, it makes you blacker. Word. See y'all next time. Peace. There we go, party people. Episode 71 of Where My Killer Tape At. Next week I will have part 2 of this discussion, so bear with me. If you want to book me, hit me up on my Gmail, DanTresOmi, DanTresOmi, and in the subject line, make sure you put in bookings. That's if you want me to come speak to your people's panel discussions and workshops. If you want to hit me up on the Twitters, or how they say in the UK, Twitters, you can always do it at Omi's Podcast. That's the official Twitter, and that's OMIS Podcast. Or the one that I'm always on, at DanTresOmi, DanTresOmi. Thank you very much, party people, and peace.